Hello, I'm John, and this is the continuing story of the restoration of Corrick, a 50-year-old Contessa 32. It's been a busy and mixed week. I've done a little bit of training and I've added another sea survival book to my collection, and I'll talk about that. But we've also had a few things on the boat finishing off and just had a little bit of time to welcome some visitors. I do hope you enjoy this video. I arrived down to see that Nick had finished the job that I'd started but not finished, which was the templating of the plywood to go to the guys who are going to do the teak deck for this, or the synthetic teak, and he'd marked it all up, making it sure that it was going to be easy for them to interpret exactly where everything was and where the lines were. So the boxing of the engine is now in place, and as we look at it, the ability is there to lift up the engine access hatch by just lifting it straight up, and then once that's safely put out of the way, what we can see is we're going to have to put some insulation on the back there, but there is a box that has now appeared just between the bunk and the berth, and that's a bit structural and holds the engine box in place. Got a nice lid, and we can look inside that in order to see where and use that as a useful stowage. It's got a faceplate on it which covers over the hose work that takes the water from the bilges, and that goes aft, accessible but nicely out of sight. And then the box itself is held in place with a single wing nut, and with just a little bit of lifting, just a little tiny jiggle, and that will then come out in a way that allows us to then remove the side piece of the engine compartment and gain access. And up on the foredeck we've got a D-ring for the pull down hole and maybe an emergency forestay, and what we've done is had to put a fair bit of reinforcing in behind that, and that is then bolted down onto the bulkhead itself, but also provides us with a very handy eye in order to take the bitter end of the anchor cable. I think I'm beginning to learn that the sanding and varnishing may never end, so just as I thought we were nearly done, what I realised was there's a tiny bit more work to do up in the fore cabin, so I gave that all a little bit of a braiding so that it would take the next coat of varnish, so a little bit of 320 paper, cleaned that all off. I then got a tack rag in so to get rid of the dust rather than just smear it around, and then I got in with a small amount, maybe 100 ml of varnish, rollered it on, and then with a brush just brushed out all of the air strokes that were in there, but it's looking good. What's true now is we're increasingly putting things in place and then leaving them there, and this last looked really good. Lifted the deck boards in order to have a look at the final bit of pipe work, the overflow from the calorifier and the engine siphon valve, both come in here through clear pipe so we can see it. And we had the rare joy of a job started and finished in the same day when I connected the tiller extension to the tiller. A couple of weeks ago we spoke about the branding, and we've now resolved all of the really helpful comments, and so we've got exactly the right colour, got exactly the right font, got everything sized just the way we want it, and when we mock it up onto the transom it looks like this, and I think that's pretty spectacular. I mentioned that I had attended a sea survival course. A lot of this is in the classroom, as you might reasonably expect, but a fair old portion of it is actually in the water. We get to inflate a life raft, board it as if we were stepping in it from the boat and then paddling away, which is the best scenario. But if you have to get in the water, we practiced doing that, jumping off the boat and then getting ourselves sorted out such that we could swim towards, either as a group or as pairs, towards the life raft itself, and then boarding it, but also then evacuating it as a group. And we did this 2 or 3 times, getting a little bit more and more wet, and the final drill was righting the inverted life raft, the idea being that it might blow away and flip itself over, and so the idea was everybody had to swim to it, flip it back over, and then get back in it themselves such that they were ready to receive other people going in.
I'm down the boat with Rob. Rob and I have sailed together and do a little bit of training together, and he was one of the very early subscribers and gives a lot of good comments to me personally, and it's good to be able to show him the boat in the flesh, so to speak.
Yeah, it's good to see it. I've seen it from the photographs, what you showed me, first of all, in the very early stages when we first met. I think it was about last September. Yeah, and I'm just coming here now and hopefully be able to give some advice to John here on how to get some coding done, some safety issues, and the rigs and some sails.
Yeah, and as it all comes together, this is exactly the right time to be thinking about all of that.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be able to help you. I really am.
Good to have you here.
So there's a real sense that things are finishing off, and that's great. I sat down with James for a couple of hours at the tail end of yesterday, and we have something of an estimate to complete, and we're doing the fine detail on that, and it'll come out in the next couple of weeks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.